Hi everyone, this is Arnika. I'm an early childhood educator and I'm here to talk about positive child guidance technique again. And today we're going to be touching on the topic of saying sorry. Now, working with children from infancy to school age, I can tell you that toward, I would say, school agers, we always have this problem where we felt that a child is learning how to say sorry without really being sorry. So you probably would see a lot where children would just say, oh, it's an accident, I'm sorry, but then it'll happen again. Or they just say sometimes like, I'm sorry, what's your problem? I said sorry already. Or sometimes they just don't even want to say sorry because they say it's an accident, it's no one's fault. It's what do you want? Like it's an accident, and they just walk away. So you have children like that too. And what we're gonna talk about here today is to teach our children how to say sorry and say it genuinely, say it sincerely. And that all start when a children are a little bit younger. Now, school ager, if they're displaying that kind of character, it is not the end of the world, but I'm just saying that, let's fix it when they're younger. So I'm going to talk about how to fix this kind of situation or this kind of habit at earlier on. So I guess what I'm going to talk about is why children do that, okay? Children have learned to understand, usually demand from the adults. When a situation happens, the adults around them are quick to say, well, you hurt the other person, you're going to say sorry, you should be saying sorry, that's not nice that you're not saying sorry. And normally they demand that sorry right away. But what they fail to understand is there's many ways of saying sorry. Sometimes a child simply just needs the time to digest what had just happened, and they need time to calm down before they can come in terms with it. Children sometimes might have done something wrong. They have feelings too. They need to just replay the whole scenario. Just need some time to just digest the information. I guess that's just the way to put it. They need some time alone, just like an adult would. So normally what I would suggest is if a child refuse like maybe iMessages, or they just don't even want to talk to you, so you try to approach to them, using iMessages, conflict resolution technique, and they just shut down. Normally, I would just say, you know what, I understand that you're upset. I understand you need some time alone. Why don't you go have your own quiet time? When you're ready to talk, you can come back to us and then we can solve this problem together. All right? So that's usually my approach. Don't force them to say sorry right away. Now, going back, I have seen a lot of adults would force a child to say sorry, like right there and then. And that would backfire. Because what happened is, if you force a sorry out of those children, later on they were going to realize that, what, sorry has a magical power. As long as I say sorry, I can get out of a lot of situation. So what happened is, a couple years down the road or a decade down the road, a child had learned that, wow, if I say sorry, it fixes everything. So, I would have school ager get into a fight, and sometimes it's actually one child purposely irritating another child, and just like this, or, little hits, or, whatever it is. And then they would just say, I'm sorry. And then the other person, it still hurts and would tell on the teacher. And then they will walk up to me and say, I don't know what his problem is, or her problem is. I say sorry already. And they would just walk away and they think the problem is solved. But you and I mean, we know that sorry is not sincere, has no meaning to it. It's just saying sorry to get out of the situation. But what can we do? And this is what I'm going to go back to, is when a child is younger, please do not force a child to say sorry. Sorry comes in many different way of forms. First thing you do is, if a child do not want to say sorry, then of course you're going to use your iMessages, conflict resolution technique, and all else fail, you send a child to have his own time by himself. All right? Or just send him away from the group. Just say that, what, your behavior is not very acceptable. I know that you're feeling very sad right now. Why don't you just have some time alone? When you're ready to play, please do come back to us and we would love to play with you. All right, so that's kind of encouragement that we want for a child. Just always be welcome to accept them back, but don't penalize them. Don't make them feel bad, okay? Because they are going through a lot. Each child is very different. Some children, lack of a better word, they're just a little bit more stubborn, and they're usually stubborn for a reason. It's because maybe someone in their past or someone in their present has been penalizing them a lot, making and also thinking that, no, a child would think that, as soon as I say sorry, then I have done something wrong. We as an adult, we need to educate the children, letting them know that sometimes saying sorry does not mean that you're wrong. You could be apologizing for, I'm sorry this is how you felt. I'm sorry this had happened. So saying sorry is not a bad word. We have to let the children know that. So sorry can come a little bit easier to them. Not instead of, and I sometimes I felt that, it's our fault too as an adult, because I know that, a majority of the people in the world out there thinks that, don't say sorry, because as soon as you say sorry, you have admit that you have done something wrong and this is bad. But you and I know this is not the case. And we are living in a society that, a lot of people are not being accountable and not being responsible for their wrongdoing. And no one wants to say sorry. And yet we demand a child to say sorry right away. It just doesn't make sense. And so remember, when a child done, sorry, first of all, sorry doesn't mean that someone is wrong. You can simply apologize for this is how they felt or how the situation transpired. What happened, and we need the children to learn that, and the best way for them to learn this is role modeling. Sometimes we have to reflect and think, am I saying sorry? Is my sorry genuine? And yes, you do have to apologize to your child when you have done something wrong, because otherwise they think that, adult is always right. I am young, I'm small, and I don't know anything. Everything that I do is wrong. That's not healthy. Reason why it's not healthy, because then your child is not going to be, they're not going to have a healthy self-esteem and not a healthy self-image. So when they go out there, they are scared to challenge people who has higher authority. I hope I'm making sense. You don't want that, okay? You always want a child to know that we are equal, okay? We as a human being, we have equal rights, all right? So they're entitled to their feeling, and so are you. So if we do something wrong, like for me, sometimes I would lose my temper and I would yell at the child, and I would have to, sincerely apologize. I'm so sorry I yelled at you. I should not be yelling at you. I was a little upset, but I should not be yelling. Things like that. Don't have your sorry be like, sometimes your sorry is not sincere, and this is how it sounds like. Don't be like, I'm sorry I yelled at you. I yelled at you because you were doing this, and that made me upset. That's not sincere at all, okay? Because you're telling a child that I'm sorry because you did this when you did this, and that's why I yelled. So now you're justifying why you're yelling. You're saying that, it's okay for me to yell because you behave a certain way. But we understand that we should not be yelling like that, because you don't want to be yelled at when you've done something wrong. Why would you yell at somebody else when they've done something wrong? I hope I'm making sense. And if you do, just sincerely apologize. I'm sorry, I yelled at you. I should not be yelling at you. I know I'm upset, but I should not be yelling at you at this way. I know your feeling it hurts. I will try to not do it again next time. All right? So this is how apology should look like. Basically, is how you would treat an adult, and this is how you should treat a child. Is how you see your child, because the child mimic us and we're their role model. So that's also very important. And so just to summarize a little bit is watch how you are with your children. Make sure that, because we as a teacher, parents, or, the adults around the child, our role is very important. The children are learning what we do all the time. And sometimes we cannot really get upset at a child, because what they're doing, sometimes it's just a reflection of what we're doing. So that's why I love working with children. I learn so much, because sometimes I see what they're doing and I don't like it, then I have to look at myself in the mirror and then say, is it something that I'm doing that they are mimicking? All right. So that's that. I actually have some note over here. All right. So I touch on don't make excuses, and oh yes, that don't apply. don't penalize the child, and stay calm. All right, so I'm reading it right here. Staying calm and yes, teach a child that, being accountable and responsible. So first start with us. We need to take ownership of our wrongdoing, and we need to make amendment. Okay, so what you do is, for little kids, we teach the children to say something like this, especially during preschool and school agers. So for preschool, we would say, I am sorry, what can I do to make you feel better? Okay, so if a child have hurt the other person or make the other person feel bad, then we encourage them to say, once that they're ready to, is to say, I am sorry, what can I do to make you feel better? And then they would negotiate the terms. Sometimes it would be a hug, and sometimes it would be like kisses on the cheek. No, never kisses on the lip, kisses on the cheek, okay, or a hug. Now, with school agers, it gets a little bit tricky, all right? Because when they are school agers, they could be a little bit manipulating. What I mean by that is, when they negotiate the terms, you have to perk your ears and make sure that the terms are reasonable. All right, because you have some children who are very smart. If they want something materialistically, what the other person have, and they would say, you know what, I will forgive you if you give me this. All right, so once it comes to school agers, I would allow them to negotiate the terms, and the other party has the right to say no. All right, because it has become unreasonable, and I would have to. That's another story. That's when we go into children's court. There's another thing that we play is children's court. That's when a situation like this is unresolved and has become unreasonable. Anyway, we're going to go to that, not today, it's a long topic. So what was I going to say? Okay, so make sure that adults have to say sorry to children, and just being a little bit reflective, because by doing that, you allow them to understand that, nobody is perfect. It is okay to mistake. We make mistake too, and it's definitely okay for you to make mistake. I know how to say sorry, and I'm teaching you how to say sorry. Saying sorry is not something that just means that you've done something wrong. Okay, sorry could be just sorry how you feel and sorry how the situation becomes. So with preschooler, this is normally what we do. Now, if you were to ask, well, what happened if my child is very young, like a toddler, a year old, a year and a half old, 2 years old, and they don't really know how to speak yet? So what we do is sign language, and this is sign language saying sorry. All right, so we teach our children to say, I'm sorry. But then some children are not ready to sign yet. Then what we're gonna do is we teach them touch. Touch is a very, very powerful thing when you think about it. So we teach children how to say sorry by being receptive and perceptive. So we will hold a young children's hand, and we're gonna have him pat on his friend, either on the head or on the body, and then the other hand we will pat the child who's patting the other kid. So it will look like this. If this is a child right here, I'll be patting the child. I will holding the child's hand for him to pat his friend, and I will pat his head. So he understands that this is how I express, and this is how I feel. Reason is because children, they don't understand their strength. They don't know how strong they are. And I don't want the other children to feel that they're being hit. Okay, so I control how gentle they should be by allowing them to feel how gentle it should be. All right, now some young children prefer if they can verbalize it. Sometimes they do want a hug. So when they want a hug, I'm usually very careful, because when they're taught, you're always gonna have one who are bigger or just stronger than or chunkier than the other one. So if they go for a hug, chances are they're just gonna topple over. And many times in my early careers, it would just be more cry again and more sorry and more hugs again, and we end up just being a group hug. So to minimize that, if a child is seeking for a hug, then I just have to make sure that no one is falling. And that's that. Oh, the other thing is there's many ways to say sorry. So if a child refuses to say sorry, don't force a child to say sorry. It doesn't have to just come out, sorry. There's many, many different ways. So I have witnessed children that, they don't want to say sorry, but then they would do a little drawing for their friend and give it to their friend. All right? Or they would do something special that their friend would like and give it to them. And that's the way of saying sorry. All right? there's a reason behind that. The reason behind that is because usually our children have a tough time saying sorry because all those things that had happened. Maybe they were penalized very badly when they're wrong, when they're younger. But if you just keep not forcing them to and giving them time to regulate, to sort through all those emotions and let them come to terms with it, then next time the child would be able to say, to apologize with a lot more meaning faster and faster. And it's actually it is actually a way of being resilient. It's a process of being resilient. Yes, I have done something wrong. Yes, this is what had happened, or this is how, just the situation is. What can I do to solve this problem with my friend? What can I do contribute into this situation so everyone would be happy at the end? I hope this makes a little bit more sense. Now, and I want to wrap it up saying thank you to all the teachers that's in my life. I am not anyone special. I am just very fortunate to be able to surround with a lot of amazing people and teachers in my life, and I have learned a lot from them. And I'm very blessed that I'm able to share this opportunity with you guys. All right, take care. Bye-bye.